My best friend's fiancé demanded I set him up with my wealthy cousin because a man deserves options. When I refused, he showed up to my cousin's party anyway and smirked, "You can't keep me away from what I deserve." My best friend looked horrified as I pulled out my phone and said, "Then let's show her what you're really like." I never thought I'd be sharing the story, but here we are. It's a long one, so settle in. I, 28 female, have been best friends with Laura, 28 female, since we were kids growing up in Chicago. We've been through everything together: school, heartbreaks, family dramas, you name it. So, when she introduced me to her fiancé, Mark, 30 male, I was thrilled for her. Mark seemed like a great guy, charming, successful, and, most importantly, he made Laura happy. A few months ago, Laura and Mark got engaged, and wedding preparations were in full swing. As her maid of honor, I was deeply involved in all the planning. One evening, while we were discussing the guest list at my apartment, Mark casually mentioned my cousin, Rachel, 32 female. Rachel is a successful entrepreneur in Chicago, known for her intelligence, beauty, and substantial wealth. Mark's interest in her seemed innocent at first, a simple inquiry about her business ventures. However, as the conversation progressed, his questions became more personal. He asked about her relationship status, her preferences in men, and even suggested that I introduce them. I laughed it off, thinking he was just making conversation. But then he said, "A man deserves options, Sarah. It's only fair." I was taken aback. "Mark, you're engaged to Laura. What are you implying?" He shrugged, a smirk playing on his lips. "I'm just saying, it's good to know what's out there." Discomfort settled in my stomach. I decided to brush it off, not wanting to create unnecessary tension. But the seed of doubt had been planted. Weeks later, Rachel hosted an extravagant party at her penthouse to celebrate a major business milestone. The city's elite were in attendance, and as her cousin, I was there to support her. Mingling through the crowd, champagne flute in hand, I felt a tap on my shoulder. Turning around, I was met with Mark's smug face. "Mark? What are you doing here?" I asked, astonished. He leaned in, his voice dripping with arrogance. "You can't keep me away from what I deserve." My heart raced. The audacity of this man, to crash my cousin's party uninvited and insinuate such things, was beyond comprehension. Without a second thought, I pulled out my phone and dialed Laura. She answered on the second ring. "Hey, Sarah. What's up?" Her cheerful voice contrasted sharply with the turmoil brewing inside me. "Laura, where are you right now?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm at home, why?" I took a deep breath. "You need to come to Rachel's party. Now." Sensing the urgency, she agreed. Within 20 minutes, Laura arrived, her eyes scanning the room until they landed on Mark and me. "What's going on?" she asked, concern etched on her face. I didn't mince words. "Mark showed up here uninvited. He's been making inappropriate comments about Rachel and other women. I think you need to see this." I opened my phone's gallery and played a recording I had taken during our earlier conversation, a precaution I had taken after Mark's initial unsettling remarks. The audio captured Mark's voice clearly, expressing his desire for options and his belief that he deserved more than one woman. Laura's face paled as she listened. Tears welled up in her eyes, and her hands trembled. "Is this true, Mark?" she demanded, her voice shaking. Mark's confident facade crumbled. He stammered, searching for words, but found none. The confrontation at the party was just the beginning. Laura called off the engagement, unable to reconcile the man she thought she knew with the one revealed that night. The fallout was messy, with Mark attempting to salvage his reputation, but the evidence was undeniable. Laura and I leaned on each other during the healing process. Our friendship, though tested, emerged stronger. We learned the importance of intuition, the value of trust, and the necessity of standing up for oneself and loved ones. As for Mark, he faded into the background, a cautionary tale of deceit and betrayal. Rachel continued to thrive, her business reaching new heights, and our family remained a pillar of support for one another. Looking back, I realize how easily we can be blinded by charm and the facades people present. It's crucial to pay attention to red flags, no matter how subtle, and to trust our instincts. Betrayal can come from the most unexpected places, but with resilience and support, we can navigate through the storm and emerge stronger on the other side. To anyone reading this, remember, always prioritize your well-being and the well-being of those you love. Don't be afraid to confront uncomfortable truths, and never underestimate the power of genuine friendship. Laura didn't say a word for the rest of that night. She just stood there, stone still, clutching her phone like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. Mark tried to talk, but every word that came out of his mouth just made things worse. He started with excuses. He was drunk, misunderstood, didn't mean it that way. Then he got angry, like it was my fault for recording him. Typical. I wasn't even surprised. Eventually, security had to ask him to leave. Not because he caused a scene, but because he wouldn't take no for an answer. He lingered like a bad smell, pacing around the front entrance while people whispered and watched. Rachel didn't find out until later, and when she did, she was furious, not just at Mark, but at the idea that someone thought they could use her like some kind of status upgrade. For a few days, it was quiet. Laura stayed at my place and barely spoke. I didn't push. We ordered takeout, watched old movies, and pretended like we weren't thinking about what just happened. I could tell she was unraveling, though. You can't spend 3 years of your life planning a future with someone and then just rip it all up overnight. But then something strange happened. About a week later, Laura's phone started blowing up. Anonymous numbers, private callers, and a few blocked messages. At first, she thought it was just spam. Then she started getting these weird texts. Stuff like, "You're making a huge mistake," and "People like Sarah will never understand men like Mark." One of them literally said, "You'll regret listening to her." We were sitting on my couch when she got one that chilled both of us. It was a photo of the two of us at the party, me holding my phone up, Mark in the background, Laura's shocked face caught in the middle. The message just said, she wanted to ruin us. She was jealous from the start. I felt my skin crawl. I told her we had to go to the police. But she hesitated. Laura has always hated conflict. She still wasn't sure how deep Mark had really gone, and part of her kept thinking maybe it wasn't him. Maybe it was someone else trying to stir things up. I didn't believe that for a second, but I let her sit with it. The next day, my cousin Rachel called me, pissed. She said someone emailed her company, pretending to be a journalist. They wanted background on Rachel's dating history, trying to confirm a rumor that she was secretly dating a recently engaged man. It was so clear what was going on, we both laughed. But the laugh didn't last long. Because a few hours later, an anonymous blog post popped up. The title? Chicago heiress caught in love triangle with engaged entrepreneur. It had just enough truth in it to sound real. They mentioned Rachel's real business, her real neighborhood, and even a distorted version of the party. There was no name for the engaged man, but come on. It was obvious what they were trying to do. Try to paint her like a homewrecker. Rachel's assistant traced the blog back to a burner IP, but it didn't help much. All signs pointed to someone tech-savvy. Someone careful. Laura was shaking when I showed her. I didn't think he'd actually go this far, she whispered. That night, we decided to look into him more. Like, really dig. Nothing illegal, just the usual digital sleuthing. Social media, old posts, mutual connections. We started seeing patterns. Mark had a habit of networking with wealthy women. Not dating them necessarily, but cozying up. One of them even followed me back and DM'd me. Her name was Felice, and she lived in the suburbs. She said she used to see Mark a long time ago. I asked her if he ever said anything weird. Her answer? He always said he'd marry for power, not love. I thought he was joking. I didn't sleep that night. We collected screenshots, timestamps, anything that could help. Laura was starting to come back to herself, less broken, more focused. And more angry. Then we hit something we weren't expecting. Turns out Mark hadn't been honest about his job. He told Laura he worked in corporate strategy for a tech firm in the West Loop. But that company? It went under last year. Their website was still up, but the business was dead. Mark had been freelancing ever since. Which we now realized probably meant couch surfing rich women and playing dress up. But there was one thing that didn't add up. His apartment. It was a luxury high-rise downtown. Laura had been there. She assumed it was his. But according to public records, it was owned by a holding company. And when we dug deeper into the ownership trail, guess who showed up? His ex-fiancé. Not Felice. Someone else. Her name was Ava, and she had money. Real money. And apparently, a serious grudge. We found her LinkedIn. I sent her a short message, just saying I was trying to understand more about Mark. She replied within the hour. She wanted to talk. And when we did, she told us something that made both of us freeze. He promised me the same life he promised Laura. Same ring. Same apartment. Same stories. And when I caught him trying to charm my business partner, he told me, a man deserves options. I don't know what we're going to do next. But I know we're not letting this go. Ava wasn't just bitter. She was prepared. After she found out about Mark's betrayal, she didn't just walk away. She collected everything. Emails, texts, even screenshots from dating apps where he was using fake names and modified photos to talk to other women. She said she'd been building a timeline just in case he ever tried to pull something like this again. She offered to send us everything. I gave her a burner email. What we got was a goldmine. There were 5 other women. Some were casual flings, some lasted months. Every single one thought she was the only one. In a few cases, they thought they were in serious relationships with him, while he was also with Ava, and then later with Laura. He rotated them like a schedule. Weekends with one, weekdays with another. He even sent copy-paste texts like, "You're the only person who truly gets me." Word for word. That was the moment Laura threw up. She kept saying, "How did I not see it?" over and over. I didn't have an answer. Mark was methodical. This was clearly not new for him. Then Ava dropped the real bomb. "He's trying to get back into my circle." That's probably how he found out about your cousin. One of my business partners just mentioned Rachel's company at a dinner event last month. It clicked. He'd been plotting. He didn't just crash Rachel's party. He had been watching, maybe even planning a long con. And we had interrupted it. I asked Ava why she never went public. Her answer was quiet, but chilling. "He threatened me. Told me no one would believe me. Said I'd sound like a crazy ex who couldn't move on. And he was right, back then. I didn't have proof. I do now. So we made a plan. Ava, Laura, and I. We weren't going to do anything illegal. We just wanted to shine a light on who he really was. But first, we had to know what he was doing now. Where he was staying. Who else he might be targeting." I didn't expect what we found next. Mark had moved out of his apartment, the one Ava owned, but he hadn't gone far. He was living with a woman named Simone. She was an art gallery owner in Lincoln Park, and based on her online photos, she looked like she had money too. Laura and I walked into her gallery on a Wednesday, pretending to browse. Mark wasn't there, but Simone was. Friendly, classy, and glowing like someone in a new relationship. My stomach dropped when I saw a framed photo on her desk, her and Mark at the beach. Matching white outfits. Her hand on his chest. And the caption, "To new beginnings." We didn't say anything that day. We didn't want to blow our cover. But later that night, I messaged her anonymously. No threats. Just a heads up. If you're dating Mark, please be careful. He's lied to several women and used them for money. If you'd like to talk, I have proof. She didn't respond for 2 days. When she finally did, it was short. "I don't believe you. Leave us alone." That stung. But we'd expected that reaction. Laura wanted to give up. I didn't. I told her, he's not just some jerk. He's a pattern. And people like this, they keep going until someone stops them. So Ava did something bold. She compiled everything into a single document. A long, detailed timeline, cross-referenced with screenshots, names, dates, and even receipts. She didn't send it to the police, not yet. She sent it to one person, Simone. And that's when things exploded. Simone showed up at my apartment. She looked broken. Said she had spent the whole night reading through the timeline. She confronted Mark that morning. He denied it all. Said we were jealous. That we were trying to ruin his life. But she wasn't buying it anymore. Then she said something that made the hairs on my arm stand up. He asked me last week if I'd be open to investing in a startup he was launching. We asked what kind of startup. She said, a high-end matchmaking service for ambitious men. Said he knew how to help powerful women meet dynamic partners. I don't even have words for how creepy that was. We told her everything. Every bit of it. By the end of the night, she was in. She wanted to help. So now it's not just me, Laura, and Ava. It's us 4. And we've got a plan. A real one this time. But here's the twist I didn't see coming. While all of this was happening, someone started snooping around my building. At first, it was a car parked too long near the entrance. Then I got weird calls from numbers that hung up immediately. One night, someone knocked on my door at 3 a.m. and didn't say anything when I asked who it was. I reported it to building security. They brushed it off. But then Laura's phone was hacked. Her cloud account. Photos gone. Notes deleted. A document we were building with all the screenshots? Gone. She called me crying. I didn't back it up. It's all gone. Not all of it. I had copies. But the fact that someone got into her account made everything way more serious. This isn't just some idiot trying to get lucky with rich women. He's careful. He's connected. And now he knows we're coming for him. We didn't plan for it to go down the way it did. Originally, we wanted to confront Mark with everything, lay it all out, and let him crash under the weight of his own lies. Something like an intervention, maybe. But the universe had other plans. Rachel, my cousin, the one he tried to charm at that party, called me out of the blue. She said she'd been invited to a private networking event for upscale investors and entrepreneurs, hosted by someone named Marcus Dean. I almost laughed. Marcus Dean was Mark's full name. He had started using his middle name now, probably to dodge search results. Rachel wasn't planning to go, but she wanted to give me the heads up. I told her to say yes. Because if he wanted a show, we were about to give him one. We prepped for days. All of us, Laura, Ava, Simone, and me. We printed copies of every document Ava had saved, lined up statements from the other women he dated, screenshots, texts, financial requests, all of it. We even brought Felice into the fold. Turns out, she had been loaned $5,000 once. Never paid back. The event was at this modern rooftop lounge in the West Loop. Fancy, Bougie. Perfect for Mark's brand. He was wearing some overpriced suit, schmoozing a circle of women in their 30s and 40s. The room had soft lighting, jazz in the background, wine being passed around. He didn't see us at first. We waited until he was mid-pitch, talking about his vision, how he wanted to revolutionize relationships. He actually said, "There's a market for men like me who know how to handle powerful women." That's when Ava stepped forward and said, loud and clear, "Powerful women? Or just women with money?" Mark's face turned. His eyes landed on all of us at once. Me, Laura, Ava, Simone, Felice, Rachel. A wall of faces he thought he'd manipulated, abandoned, or deceived, and here we were, standing together. "What is this?" he said, voice tight. I stepped forward. "You wanted options, right? Here's your collection." Ava laid a thick envelope on the table. "This is your resume. Hope you're proud." Mark looked at the papers but didn't touch them. He laughed, nervous, fake. "You're all insane. This is harassment." "Is it?" Simone said. "Or are we just comparing notes?" Some of the women he'd been talking to started backing away. One of them looked at the printouts, flipped through, then turned and walked off without saying a word. Rachel added, "And FYI, Mark, I'm a real person. Not a prize. Not your next upgrade." He tried to pivot. Tried to charm. Said we misunderstood, that he had a rough childhood, that he had abandonment issues, and didn't mean to hurt anyone. Laura cut in then. "And what she said stayed with me forever. You hurt people because you wanted to. Because it was easy. And because you thought we'd never talk to each other." That's when he snapped. His mask slipped. "You're all just mad I didn't choose you," he spat. "You're jealous. Bitter. No man wants a woman who keeps score." Silence. Then Rachel said, "No man worth having acts like a predator." He stormed out after that. Tried to look composed, but his face was red and his steps were too fast. Nobody followed him. The room felt like it had exhaled. Simone cried later, outside the lounge. She wasn't just angry, she was humiliated. She had almost funded his scam. Ava held her while she sobbed. Laura didn't cry. Not that night. But the next morning, she sent me a voice memo. Just 10 seconds. "He was everything I thought I wanted. And none of what I needed." Felice texted me a thank you. Just that. No emojis. But I knew what it meant. I didn't expect to feel empty. I thought I'd feel triumphant. But mostly, I just felt tired. Like I'd been holding my breath for weeks. Some people said we were harsh. That we should have handled it privately. One guy at the lounge even muttered something about overreacting, but he wasn't the one who got lied to. He wasn't the one gaslit, strung along, emotionally bled dry. We didn't destroy Mark. He did that himself. We just showed the receipts. Laura didn't go back to dating for a long time. She moved out of their shared apartment, changed her number, started therapy. Rachel helped her get a part-time consulting job, just something to reset. Ava? She's dating someone new. Carefully. Slowly. But she says she's not afraid anymore. She said exposing Mark helped her take back her voice. Me? I still think about it sometimes. The lies, the manipulation, how easy it was for someone to use love like a weapon. But I also think about what we did. We didn't let him win. Not this time. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Silence protects the wrong people. And speaking up, even when it shakes everything, is how you build something stronger from the ashes.